Hello, everybody. Welcome to my channel. I'm Reina Creole, and as always, I am so happy to have Chris Gore of Film Threat on my channel. How are you doing, my dear?
Lorena, I'm in recovery from Vegas, but I feel great. I'm excited to talk to you. I'm so excited you got to see my documentary and can't wait to talk to you about it.
Well, I mean, I tell people do not believe me. I'm like, do you remember that show, Attack of the Show? Back in the day, they were like, yeah, we used to talk about it like all the time when we were at work because I worked in IT, bunch of geeks. Soon as we heard about G4, we're like, what did you watch on G4? We watched this, watch this, watch this, and we were always talking about Attack of the Show. So when I caught up with some friends and I said, you will never guess who I've gotten to interview and talk to on a regular. I was like, Chris Gore from G4. I hate you.
Oh, that's great.
They're like, I freaking hate you because that show was so fundamental for us because all of us, nerds and geeks that were out there and where we were working, it was like, I call it like nerd central because it was like huge concentration. You walk through the cubicles, it's like a museum of nerddom, every single cube that you go to with like collectibles and stuff like that. So this show, especially for those of us who couldn't afford to like say go to San Diego Comic-Con, G4 was like a godsend to us. And this documentary, which with Herm over on the Burnett Work, a positive
Mhm.
fandom, we did a watch party of it, and it was like going down memory lane for us in the best way possible. So I got to ask you one, how did you come up with the idea for doing this in the first place?
Whew, whoa, that's a big and first of all, thank you for the support. You and I was actually at the movies. We're about to walk into the movie. I'm like, oh, the watch parties. I sort of dipped in for a little bit and was chatting with you. So thank you for the watch party. That brought a lot of attention. And you did it
Welcome.
on the day, which is it was April 24th, which is the 21st anniversary of the launch of G4 TV. That's when the movie came out, and that's when you did the watch party. So thank you.
Oh,
Um,
you're welcome.
for the idea, like I was a small part of G4. I mean, it was like, on the show. I was a fan of the show before the show was on, right? Like I watched Tech TV and G4 and X Play. I loved X Play and the screensavers. And I got sort of called in, this guy Gavin Purcell, this is going to be a long answer, but it's worth it.
We
Trust me.
got it. Bring it.
Cool. So I had done a TV thing with him for National Enquirer TV, and he was the executive producer of then the Screensavers, which became Attack of the Show. He brought me in and he's like, look, I've worked with you. I love what you do. I think you're awesome. And I said, well, I don't know. I've had some bad experiences with TV. They're always trying to hit me up and make me cool. And I'm like, I am a big nerd. I love nerd stuff. And, I just want to be able to be myself on camera. And he's like, all right, I'm just offering you the job. No audition necessary. We need a movie guy to come in every Tuesday to do DVD Tuesday, maybe do some junket coverage and
Uh-huh.
be a backup host in case one of our hosts gets sick or something happens. I'm like, all right. I said, I have three things I want. I said, one, I want to be able to wear whatever I want. So
Hmm.
t-shirt for my favorite band, t-shirt for Film Threat, my website, whatever. I also want to be able to say whatever I want within reason. I'm not going to swear, but I did find out later that I could mispronounce swear words. So I would say something like, oh man, that guy is a total shatheed. And it was great. I got away with a lot of stuff. And then I said, the third thing I want is I want to be able to keep the DVDs that I review. And he said, look, I can agree to the first two, but we keep the DVDs in a producer's library. And they need to be here in case we need footage from those movies. I come to find out later that the producer's library is just where the producers stole DVDs and just took them home for themselves. But I didn't care. It was the least money I made in TV, but the most fun I ever had. And the only time I really got to be myself on camera and, working with Kevin Pereira, Olivia Munn, the highlight of my career. And I'm glad I sort of just, that was it for me for TV, moving on, done. But after G4 ended in 2012 we were done shooting, but they shot these best of episodes that aired at the beginning, like the first quarter of 2013, and then it
Mhm.
was over. G4 was done. But we finished shooting in end of 2012. So, I go to film festivals, I'm doing my film threat thing, whatever. I'm at South by Southwest in 2017. And for the 10,000th time, someone recognized me and says, "Hey, G4 TV, whatever happened to that network?" And I'm like, I love that like people even like what I did, right? So I'm like, I really don't know what happened to G4 TV. It just,
Hmm.
just went off the air. But someone should make a documentary about that someday. And the name popped into my head. I remember it, Attack of the Doc. So, oh, someone should make a doc. And then I thought, well, why not me? I know movies. I've never made a documentary, but I can try. So I registered the name attackofthedoc.com. I grabbed all the social media, Facebook, Twitter,
Mhm.
Instagram. And then I did an unsuccessful Kickstarter. It really wasn't. I kind of didn't really know what I was doing. And then in 2019, I did a Kickstarter and it succeeded. I couldn't believe it, beyond my wildest dreams. We raised it was like 85K as the reported, but with taxes and everything else, it ends up being like just under 70K. Uh,
Mhm.
they take a chunk out. Just for anyone that does crowdfunding, they think you're rich. Like when it happened to Eric July, it's like, oh, that money's all spent. He's not rich. He'll have a little bit left over to live, but uh, Eric July is not a millionaire from that campaign. I promise you. So, but I did that, and then we started shooting in March of 2020.
Uh-huh.
And you know what happened? The pandemic, and everything was shut down. We built a studio. We did our first interview. We had lined up all these people we were going to interview, and that happened, and that shut us down for like a year. We used that time to like build a library of footage from Attack of the Show, just to kind of, you know, they say you need about 300 hours to make a documentary, 300 hours of footage. So I collected
Hmm.
hundreds of hours of footage. And so that's kind of like where it was literally just people constantly asking me a question. And I thought, I'm tired of answering this question, especially if I don't know the answer. And I wanted to find out the answer. Why was G4 canceled when, by all accounts, nerd culture was on the rise? Marvel movies were huge. And I'll say this, I started in March of 2005. I did 3 episodes of the Screensavers, and then Gavin, when he hired me, he goes, "You cannot tell anybody this." I'm like, all right. So we're changing the name of the Screensavers to Attack of the Show. I thought it was the stupidest name I'd ever heard. I thought it was so dumb. Like, why? That sounds like Attack of the Clones. Why are you doing that? Anyways, obviously the name grew on a lot of people, but like just that experience, like it was really, everyone was just their authentic selves, and I'd never done TV like that. Like I came in and just like I would wear a Film Thread t-shirt, I'd wear jeans, my opinions were my opinions. I write notes for myself. It was always live. So when it was done, no pre-record. If I'm live, it's just like you got 5 minutes, you're live on TV. Okay, now you're done. Um, and everyone there was like, from Blair Butler, who covered comic books, to Kevin, who covered tech, and just like everybody knew their stuff. And it was like this air of like, it's almost like there was so little direction. I mean this in a good way, that like they
Mhm.
just let us do whatever we wanted. It's like, well, people seem to like it, so whatever. I mean, it wasn't toward the end that it started to get a little corporate, but at the beginning it wasn't corporate at all. It was just sort of Wild West of like, do whatever, just don't swear. And I'm like, I'm good with that. It's cool. So there you are. Yeah, I know.
Wow. Well, I love that explanation because you're talking about you guys being able to be your authentic selves. I really think, no, actually, I know that's the reason for the success of Attack of the Show. I mean, you guys just were doing what you wanted to do. And it was kind of that era of television where people really flock to that sort of thing. It's like it's not a real script. They're just doing stuff. They're just doing stuff that you and your friends would do if you,
Mhm.
were out, and you turn you turn the camera on. Like the segment of you guys on the road trip to San Diego
Yeah,
Comic-Con.
yeah,
The part about the comics and they're coming off the top of the car, I'm like,
yeah.
okay, that just stabbed me in the heart right there. But for a lot of nerds, it would have done the same exact thing. It's like, how many of us all piled in the car, split gas, you know, sharing a whole hotel room just to get to a convention to go and have fun.
Well, it's not as if that's changed. I've been going to Comic Con since I was a little kid. I mean, it was part of the Detroit Auto Show. They would have comic books in a back room, and then they
Yeah.
would have someone signing autographs like Adam West, the original 66 Batman, or Leonard Nimoy I met at the Detroit Auto Show. These were the celebrities that were there. This is way back when. But Comic Cons have really evolved into a thing. I mean, it's a cultural thing. San Diego, there's Dragon Con, there's MegaCon in Florida, there's LA Comic Con, WonderCon, which used to be in San Francisco Bay Area. I don't know. I've just always been around nerd culture. So when G4 launched, it's like, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of this in any way possible. So it just was an organic fit for me. And I loved it. It was like, looking back, it was really this kind of magical era where, it was because nerd culture was not cool. Okay. When the show launched in 2005, it wasn't until maybe 2008 when Iron Man came out. That's when nerd culture is like, oh wow, like regular normies like Iron Man. Like you can go to Target and get a Star Wars t-shirt, right? Like that didn't exist before. I would hide my long boxes of comics. It's just like, they're in the corner, they're under a table, under a sheet. And I'll break them out and, look at them and read them and do whatever. But nerd culture, when G4 launched on April 24th, 2002, wasn't cool. It wasn't cool. It was still considered like, you mentioned IT department and, your coworkers like watching, this network was made for nerds, which I believe was a large contingent, but wasn't really acknowledged. It wasn't a demographic that an advertiser like, yeah, we kind of know this, and science fiction movies, they do marginally well. Now it's just, Marvel movies, Star Wars, this, like you look at, whatever you think of those things, it's not going away. It's not going away at all. I think that nerd culture is still large, but here's what bothered me, and another thing that motivated me to make the movie. A couple things that are themes and threads in the film is one, I think that we're divided more than ever, like as a country. Now, politically, I expect us to be divided. Politically, I don't expect nerds to be divided. I don't care what I don't care. Like, you like this Star Wars movie, I dislike that one, but I like it. Who cares? It doesn't matter. We have different opinions. To me, it's the discussion and the debate. And so, as I've seen the country become more divided, and I've seen it like, wait, nerd culture's divided? Like, why? And then I looked at it's like when G4 announced they were coming back, my first question to myself was, I remember thinking, like, why? Like, YouTube already does like what we used to do on G4. YouTube does that. It's YouTube reviews movies, and YouTubers review movies, comic books, video games, culture, theme parks. Every aspect of nerd culture is represented by hundreds of people. Find the one you like. I usually go down many rabbit holes. But YouTube, I believe, was, and I feel like Attack of the Show in a way inspired YouTubers. Like, hey, there's no G4 anymore. So what should we do? It's like, I don't know. I'm just going to do my own reviews. I'm going to do my own thing. Maybe I'll find an audience. Well, a lot of people have found, that you can make a living out of that, which I think is amazing. So I was just like, why would G4 want to return now? Like, what are you going to do differently that isn't already being done by very authentic people on YouTube? Some of them have audiences of north of 1 million subscribers, 100,000, 10,000, like, to me, you get to 10,000 subscribers, like, okay, you're building something. So that I wanted to make a comment about that. And then also what I wanted to do, I wanted through the, because the type of documentary I made is one that you would categorize as archival documentary, meaning there's very little footage that's shot new. I shot like, there's like little wraparound with me. There's Zach Selwyn doing the music stuff.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
By the way, the soundtrack is on Spotify, and we cut 2 songs. They're on the soundtrack. So if you have Spotify, you can look up Attack of the Doc. The original soundtrack is there.
Oh, cool. I'm going to have to look that up.
Score and all the songs by Zach. So I just, I wanted to remind people of when nerd culture was united, when we just loved stuff. I wanted to take, remind you like, hey, here's some of the best segments from G4 you probably remember. Here's some behind the scenes stories about those segments. Here is when nerd culture, we just loved stuff. And Olivia Munn and both Kevin, I got to say, the movie is also a tribute to them because I learned so much doing television from them.
Mm-hmm.
They were both so quick-witted, and they both, and this was a tone that permeated the set. You're going to work on that show, you better have a sense of humor about yourself. You better, because there's a segment we show where Olivia, she reads the teleprompter and she says Mick Hammer instead of
Mick Hammer.
Honest mistake. Her first reaction is to burst out laughing at herself. And that, to me, we've somehow, even as a country, people in entertainment, they take themselves so seriously now, like I wanted to remind people of a time we used to not take ourselves so seriously.
Right.
We used to all laugh together. We used to love things together. Sometimes we didn't like it, but we didn't get in fights about it that where you're calling someone problematic because they like or dislike a certain movie. Who cares? You like what you like. It's like trying to explain to someone what your favorite ice cream flavor is, which to me, I always got a double scoop. This was my go-to as a kid. Superman ice cream. Okay. That's a flavor of ice cream. You can look it up. Superman and Blue Moon. Superman and Blue Moon was my double scoop. They basically both they tasted like sugar. I don't know what but that you can still get Superman ice cream to today. It's they must have gotten the license years ago and they still make it. I've never seen it. Look, you got to look it up. Superman and Blue Moon. That was my go-to. I'd take money from my newspaper route. I would go and get a double scoop, and it was great. It was, but like I grew up because I grew up in the dark times of nerd culture. But one of the highlights of Marvel and American movies in the 70s and 80s is when I grew up. It was a different time, very different time. And the nerd culture became cool. And I'm like, oh, this is great. And now you see it. It comes up, the political divide in our country comes up on a lot of non-political shows because why are we even, who cares? I've been working with Alan Ng for years, who's been on your show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll never see anything nice about him to his face. I'll never do that. I love Alan. I love working with him. I didn't know what his politics were or where he stood on things. I just knew he was very passionate about indie film. He was a really good writer that has developed into a great writer. And Alan is amazing. So, but the whole, it's a very misfit group, the group of writers who write for Film Threat. And I've always kept the website and the media outlet politically agnostic. There are people all over the political landscape, but you better have a sense of humor if you're going to work at Film Threat. Otherwise, you can't hang. You're not going to be able to hang. So they're just certain. So the kind of the purpose of the doc was to remind people of this era by just showing it to them, making it archival, having a sense of humor, doing things in the doc that probably might have been done on the show. There were a lot of sequences that where, we didn't have footage. It's like, oh, well, we want to talk about this thing happening, but we actually don't have footage of it. What do we do? And so I went to the guys who own Second Life and I had them create some machinima animation. So there's 5, 6 minutes of it in the doc that just cover parts where we didn't have supporting footage. And it's just something that probably Attack of the Show would have done because, you know, Second Life is one of the first metaverses to exist, which is cool. And there you go. Can I tell you like an Easter egg that's going to be on the Blu-ray?
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So for the Second Life animation, we recreated the entire set of Attack of the Show in Second Life. Like made it. You can go to it, right? So there's a link. If you get the Blu-ray, you can go directly and you can visit Attack of the Show set in Second Life. It exists. You can walk around it. You can take pictures. You can take video of yourself. You can stand at the podium that Kevin and Olivia stood at. And it's a recreation of the original set of Attack of the Show that exists in Second Life. There's a secret way to get to it. The only way is to get the Blu-ray. So there you go.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Is there an option to have like that big giant pie brought out so you could jump in it?
Well, we you know what's so funny? We could add it. I think we should just do that. I think we've got time. It'll be out in the beginning of August. My backers get it first in July. Always first with the backers. But yeah, no, like, look, I didn't expect it to take as long as it did, but the two wrenches that were thrown my way were the pandemic, you know, and locking down, and my co-producer, editor Bobby Schwartz, he got COVID like right when that happened in March. He got the first wave. He was super sick. He was down for the count. And he had it like on and off, like he was sick for like 6 months. So yeah, it was not easy. There was that. And then the new G4 coming back. It's like, well, I have to figure out how I'm going to deal with it. And what I chose to do was acknowledge it, but not go in depth. It's not my story to tell. I wasn't there, wasn't a part of the new G4. Someone else could tell that story or that documentary. But you know, I guess I could make Attack of the Doc Part 2. I could do that. I don't know would anyone want to see that? Comment below. There's enough comments.
Because I'm intrigued, because when I heard about Attack of the Doc, I was thinking, are they gonna put something in there about the new G4? I'm like, is it? And honestly, when watching it, I wasn't even thinking about that because I was too busy reminiscing. First of all, the Second Life animation, for some reason that reminded me of the Taiwanese animation. So that was a slam dunk. I love that part. I just had too much fun reliving parts of the show, get my mind blown about things about the show that I didn't know that, that came into existence. And like you were saying, Chris, and I loved the way that the documentary went this way. A time when nerd culture was just about, hey, we just want to be interested in nerd stuff. That's all we care about. And nothing about, this divide that's going on, which is really strange to me, because as someone who we'll go back when we say, nerd culture wasn't cool. It wasn't. And it really wasn't cool if you were around the so quote unquote popular kids, because I was a cheerleader in high school. What do you mean you read comics? What do you mean you saw Star Wars? What do you mean? I mean, I would go to the mall and couldn't look like I was looking at science fiction magazines. I had to kind of look like I was looking at the fashion magazines and stuff like that. So sometimes I'd grab one and put it on the top, and grab a sci-fi magazine and put it on the bottom. So no one would see, because all my friends were out there. It's like there wasn't a comic shop in the mall like it is now. I mean, just like out there, boom, hey, come in and get comics. It's like, no, it was some dingy place down the street next to, the video store. And you didn't really want people looking and knowing that you were going in there. So with this particular documentary, and even with when G4 happened, it was like, okay, it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be the nerd that you are. It's okay to geek out about all of this stuff. And it's okay if we don't really have the same opinion. At the end of the day, we'll just laugh at each other and, and that's fine. And even with going to conventions, because I noticed a shift there, it started going from, hey, we're all nerds enjoying this, always getting into that verbal spat about who's the best captain of Star Trek. That
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
one, that
yeah.
one, yeah, you kind of expected that one, or you said something just to start something. But in the end, they're like, nah, it's all cool. We're good. We're good. We're just having a good time. But then it started this direction where people seem to police what other people like. And it's never been that way. I tell people on my channel, I'm just like, look, my opinion at $2 will not get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks at all. I'm just here to tell you my opinion. If you like stuff, like some people are like, I feel bad, I like The Mandalorian. I'm like, don't. You enjoy the hell out of that show. People don't like it, that's on them. But you enjoy what it is that you want to enjoy, and no one has the right really to like judge you for that. I mean, they might question your taste and stuff, but in the end, it's basically, it's you like what you like what I like. At the end, we're all just about having fun. And I really feel that now that it's gone mainstream with geek culture, especially with the Big Bang Theory, I couldn't watch that show for the longest time because I work with people like that. I can't.
Yeah. I
I
yeah.
can't.
I was not a fan of that show. I just think it was a misrepresentation of. I mean, there are nerds that are like that, and I still can. I mean, look, the nerd, and this is what I always love about nerd culture. The nerd culture is a big tent. Nobody cares. What
Hmm.
are you into? Great. You love that. Explain to me why you love it. Maybe I'll become a fan. That's sort of
Hmm.
the great thing about fandom. No one can know everything. It is impossible for one person to know everything. But collectively, as a group, everyone can have their area of interest. I'm always learning about some new anime I didn't know about, uh, or just some. I love that. I love, and that's what YouTube has become for me. Is I discover people who like, oh, they know all about this. Like, I never even knew about that. Like, that is crazy. And then that's a rabbit hole. So I love it. Like YouTube I think is great. I watch YouTube and I watch movies. That's pretty much, and some select television series. Right now I'm watching Beef on Netflix, which I think is fantastic.
How were you liking that? Because I saw one episode, but I got sucked into a K drama, so I didn't go back to it.
Oh, I love K dramas. Are you watching The Extraordinary Attorney Woo?
Haven't finished it, but yes.
Oh, I love that
Yes.
show.
Yes.
I love it. Like, where you see the world through her eyes, and she's autistic and uh,
Mhm.
brilliant, but challenged in some ways socially. I love that show. I think it's great. So yeah, K dramas I get into as well. I think that's Netflix's saving grace is all the foreign stuff. I really like. There's Indian films, Bahubali, among others. I know you
Oh,
get into the Indian
yeah.
stuff. I'm so happy that you embraced it. I still can't get Gary from Nerdrotic to watch
We're
RRR.
we're
Dude,
we're just gonna have to peer pressure him, sit him down, lock him in a room, so you can't leave until you see this this film.
yeah,
Because I have to thank you for leading me down that rabbit hole. Because
good.
Bollywood movies, I was like, I'm not really into that. So RRR, then went to KGF 1 and 2, and then
And
from there just went to a whole bunch of them.
yeah, there's a lot on Amazon if you have Prime Video, and there's also a bunch on Netflix too. And once you start
Mhm.
watching them, they recommend more, which
Yes.
great. I'm
I'm
not
never gonna
complaining.
finish that list. My viewers are like, "You have to watch this, you have to watch this." I'm just like, "I'm never gonna get this done." But I love all the recommendations and love how Indian viewers are just like, we are shocked and also just really humbled and honored that like Americans are getting into this stuff, just loving it, just consuming it, just recommending it to all of their friends. And the common comment that I get from Americans watching it, like during my watch parties, we're just like, we used to get films like this.
Yeah, American films have really, first of all, American film, the identity's kind of lost. I think American movies also people recognize that there's messaging that's kind of woven in that's unnecessary. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like for some films that there's a checkbox that doesn't include story first, story, character, entertainment value. If there's any check boxes, those should be the top three. Those aren't always the top three. So, it's disheartening to see that American movies are not, I think we'll see American movies won't be the top movies. You're going to see worldwide phenomenons of other
Mm-hmm.
films, right? I mean, so first of all, I've always grown up, like I've always watched like movies from overseas. So it's just interesting to see, wow, they're more popular now than ever because we have so many more choices, even documentaries. I remember not long ago, this is like back in the 90s, like documentaries were not like a thing. Like if you like documentaries, you were like you were like an Uber movie nerd, right? Like you
Yeah.
were at the film festivals and I really like that. I really love that documentary, this documentary about whatever. But documentaries, I mean, there's subgenres of documentaries. I mean, I would describe my movie Attack of the Doc as a pop culture / archival documentary. That is a pop culture is a category, archival is a category. These are different types of docs. They're music documentaries, political documentaries, all different across the spectrum types of documentaries. So I love docs. I grew up watching a lot of documentaries, but even documentaries, it's an incredibly popular category on Netflix, especially true crime. That is a category. I know.
I freaking love true crime.
True crime is great. It's there's some great true crime documentaries. I get sucked in like everybody else,
Green River Killer, BTK. Oh man, it's crazy.
They're great. They're really well done. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm hoping that what people get out of the documentary is that they're reminded of that time, and just by showing that, and keeping it very filtered from. I mean, it was. I'm interviewing people who worked behind the scenes at G4, including like the main executive and the head writer, Casey Schreiner, the two directors who collectively directed over 1,000 episodes of the show. They're telling stories that I never knew. So I'm interviewing them. So I never knew that. I came in like once, twice a week. Occasionally I was there during like all hands on deck things like Comic-Con or E3 or whatnot. But man, it was just like, just being reminded of that time was really magical, the rise of nerd culture. And now I believe we have witnessed the fracturing of nerd culture, and it's completely unnecessary. And I've been talking to other YouTubers like yourself who want to talk to me. I'm like, I'll talk to whoever. I mean, I know you, so you're at the top of the list, but I'm talking to some other YouTubers and they're like, yeah, like, there's certain like this YouTuber, don't talk to this person because they have these kinds of views. And I'm like, I'll talk to anybody because I don't care. And like nerd stuff, I mean, I'm pretty sure we can find a place where we connect. There are more ways that we're alike than different. And the fact that there is a divide, or certain people will be described as, and some of these are people I know, they'll be described as problematic. And I'm like, but what did they do? They're really fun to hang out with. And I don't agree with them about everything. But if I was only friends with people I agreed with, I would have no friends. So, are we going to continue to go down this path? And I will not support anyone that pushes anything that I consider to be divisive. It's like I will call it out. And I cannot believe I've just seen like people I thought I knew that were just sort of chill, like getting angry at groups of people. I don't even need to be specific. Like you can figure it out, or you can read in. It's like whatever.
Yeah.
People like that. They'll post on social media. I'm like, I didn't even know you felt that way. Like, dude, you got to chill out. And I don't post where I get in fights on social media. The next time I see that person, I'll say, do you really feel that way? Like, do you think that's really productive? Like, you see that very famous bumper sticker that says coexist. Yet I wonder, the people who have coexist as a bumper sticker on their car, are they really willing to live that virtue in real life? Live the concept, the idea of coexisting with people in spite of differences. We've lost that, and it's really disheartening to me. I don't know if you can hear, they're taking the garbage out behind me. You hear a little rumbling?
Oh yeah, I hear it.
A
I
little
hear
bit.
it. I
I
hear it.
hear it a lot.
Sometimes my luck is the lawn guy will be out there with the leaf blower while I'm trying to
They
record.
own the leaf blower guys only come out when you start podcasting or when you go live.
Yes.
They know, they've got your schedule there. They got the notification from Lorena. It's time to blow the leaves. So
Yep.
there we go. Yeah.
Right outside my darn window. Can't do it down there. It's out to talk.
Nope.
Do it in front of where I live. But you know what? You are you're right. And one of the things that's been the most disheartening to me, especially with starting out on YouTube. Actually, it'll be 3 years end of this month. I've been on YouTube. Wow, I can't even believe that. But in the beginning, it's like, yes, we're all together. We're all nerds. You know this. You know this. You know this. Let's get together and let's just talk nerd stuff. To now, it is you're problematic if you associate this person, if you associate with that person, if you go and appear with that person, that's going to be, that's going to be a problem, and just constant chatter. And it's just like, you know what, I'm just doing my own thing over here. There's just stick with the fun. And I hate to say it. One, I love that your doc is out there because it just makes to help people remember when nerd and geek culture was just fun, and we weren't looking about the things that divided us, except for the Star Trek captains debate.
That's
but
fun. That's really fun to have. To me, one of the most fun things of going was people have different opinions and everyone has something to contribute. And I want to know, well, why do you feel that way? And I love that debate because it's like, oh, that kind of made me change my mind a little bit. Let me think that through more clearly. Like, I love it. To me, having different opinions represented is so important. I mean, it's important, it's important. I don't know politically if that's even possible these days, but in nerd culture, to me, it was always that way.
Oh, it was fun. It's like we expected that to happen. We're like, who's gonna start first? Who's gonna start this first? And somebody does. It's like, get the popcorn. This is gonna be fun. And listening, we're like, oh, we hadn't thought about it like that. Okay. But we had these nerd discussions, that Star Trek versus Star Wars, those types of discussions. What was the worst Star Trek movie, done? And we would just, talk about these things and just have a good time. But I honestly think, unfortunately, things are going to get to the point where nerd culture will fall out of popularity in a way, and people are going to have to relearn that lessons of, you don't know what you've got till it's gone, and you go back to those, those days where it was just about nerd culture, what's out there. You like the same things that I do, all of that. I mean, I'll still remember I would go to conventions and people thought I was the talent, which blew my mind. I'm like, no, I'm just here to attend the convention. Really? Yes, really. I'm here to attend the convention. And you'll get somebody who's like, oh, okay, well, if you really know about Star Wars, what happened in XYZ, whatever. And I'm like, I cannot believe the nerve of this person. Okay, all right, let me blow your mind. I'll tell you. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Let's talk. I said, I get it. Because it's so not cool, and you'll have some people that kind of like to harass you a lot about what you like in nerd and geek culture. So it's like, I understand. Of course, now some people will call that gatekeeping, whatever. Get it, but
it's weird because I've been going to conventions a while, and I'll say that going to like Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con in the early 90s, is mostly dudes, not gonna lie, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If you saw a woman there, it was like a sighting of Bigfoot. You were like, wait, what? It's not something, it was a rare occurrence. So, and you're here on purpose. Yeah, and it was great. Now I will say it is 50-50 male female at any convention you go to. Now, I love that because I'm a father to a daughter. My daughter is an uber nerd. She's all about Transformers. She has the things she likes. She likes Pokemon, Transformers, lots of
Mhm.
different, she's not as much into Star Wars. She's like, all right, I'll see the Star Wars movie, but it's not my thing. But she likes to brag. She's been going to Comic-Con since she was a fetus, which is actually true. Um,
Oh,
so,
wow.
but like now it's fully 50-50. You see any convention you go to, male, female, and and the women are not just there for cosplaying or whatever. They're there buying books or clothes or collectibles, just like anybody else. I love that. The nerd tent's a big tent. The more the merrier, whatever. It's cool. And so yeah, I've seen it change, for good ways. That's a good way that it's changed. And in bad
Mhm.
ways, which is recently where now you have people that are just seeking to divide, or this person, you should never associate with that person. Well, have you ever talked to them? You should
Mhm.
talk to that person. And I think it's really important that we just talk to each other. We just talk to each other. That's all. That's all we need to do. You talk to someone as a nerd. You'll disagree on lots of nerd things, but you know what? You'll find areas of connection. And that's kind of what I was trying to say with the documentary is, remember this time we just all loved stuff and got along and
Yeah.
celebrate it. So there you go.
Yeah. Well, I love this documentary. I had to buy it as soon as it came out. So, folks, it is available to purchase video on demand. I think well, I know I got mine from Amazon. So, can you please, Chris, let the people know where they can purchase or rent your documentary?
It's on Amazon, Attack of the Doc. You can find it on Google Play Store. It's on YouTube, actually. You can buy it or
Oh,
rent it.
nice.
It's on Vimeo. It'll be coming out on some other VOD platforms. And eventually there'll be a special edition Blu-ray that's coming out in August. I'm really excited. Unedited interviews, behind the scenes stuff. It really will be the ultimate collectible if you're a fan of the show. Commentary. It's kind of crazy. So
Wow. Well, I'm
yeah,
excited. I definitely have to get on a pre-order list for that Blu-ray. I have to nerd out on all those all those interviews. Well, folks, I will have links to where you can buy or rent Attack of the Doc, also along with Chris Gore's social media. So, how can people find you on social media?
it's real easy. I'm Film Threat is my YouTube channel. We're Film Threat on Instagram, Twitter, everything. I am that Chris Gore. I just want to warn people, I can be a sarcastic jackass. Just so you know, like I can be sarcastic sometimes. I don't think a lot of people know that I'm generally joking when I say most anything. So check it out or not. But I hope you check out the movie, and I hope you watch it thinking like, hey, it's. I was trying to tell document of time of this is what nerd culture was like.
Absolutely. Well, folks, from me, I will definitely tell you, you need to buy this documentary. Or if you can't afford to buy it, rent it, watch it. Trust me, it is so absolutely worth it. And if you kids are like, what's Attack of the Show? Go watch it. Trust me. Gonna laugh at some of those retro clips we got there. Well, I want to thank you so much, Chris, for being on my channel. You're practically always on here every time that I ask. So I so do appreciate it. And much congrats and success to you on this documentary. It's gonna do great things.
Cool. Thank you, Lorena. You're a treasure, and I appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much, my dear. And folks, thank you so much for watching. Please do drop a comment about Attack of the Doc if you've seen it, want to see it, what your impressions were. And most importantly, uh, for that Second Life recreation of the G4 studio, that big pie pit to jump into. I think that should be on the, on the Blu-ray.
Work on that. That's cool. Thank you.
Well, folks, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.